Highguard is a game that just came out, but even after a handful of games, it becomes obvious that certain mechanics and gameplay elements are not working. The game rapidly lost its initial player base, which is a very bad thing if it wants to stick around. I'll be going over what I consider to be the major issues with the game during my playtime, starting with character design. The character designs in Highguard are extremely safe and bland compared to competitors. The designs also don't intuitively show what each character does. Comparing to a game they apparently previously worked on, Apex designs clearly represent the character and give you some idea what to expect from them. Character names in Apex may also be pretty on the nose, but those on the nose names give an indication as to what the character does. Let's take a look at a couple examples, starting with Mirage. Mirage is a very common word. We all know it means something that's fake, it's not really there. This guy's suit is bright, it's distracting, his pose is stupid and goofy, and turns out in-game, he makes clothes and is intentionally designed to distract you with those clones. Not only does he make mirages, he is intentionally designed from the ground up to be in your face, loud, annoying, and distracting. Moving on to Caustic. Caustic means melts things, is toxic to the touch. This guy looks like he's in some chemical gear, safety gear. He's wearing a gas mask. Turns out in-game, he uses gas traps. Who would have thunk? And then what about Bloodhound? Bloodhound is a tracking dog. This character looks like a hunter. He's got a bird, he's got knives, he's got some like fur on his back. In-game, he sees trails, like a bloodhound. He scans and tracks you down. All three of these designs are pretty much named guy that does this, and then the kid is the guy does this. It's a little on the nose, but you can intuit what the character does just off how they look and what their name is. Now, if we compare it to Highguard, we have the first character, Atticus. This character is memed as John Highguard for a reason. Looking at his design, what does he do? Ignore the powers on the right and the description of the powers. Looking at the base design, what can you intuit from his looks? He is a guy in some armor with white and yellow cape. He's got the TikTok haircut and some silver thing around his head. The only things that indicate his lightning powers is the little design on his chest and his headpiece, which is supposed to be lightning-esque invoking. Nothing about this character's design at base specifically tells you what he is supposed to do when you look at him. He looks like he could go into any generic fantasy game and he would fit in perfectly fine. Moving on to another character, we have Una. They look like a demon or yokai inspired character. Turns out in game they summon spirits. This one's actually not bad. The design is honestly kind of cool looking, and it's one of the few that somewhat shows what the character does. However, what does Una mean? That is just the character's name. What does it mean to be an Una? And then finally, as a third example, we have Slade, who is literally just Ken from Street Fighter. This guy, in a fantasy setting, has just modern street clothing. He is wearing red and black leather. How are you supposed to look at this guy and realize that this is the firebender? And then also, looking at his ability descriptions, what does his passive even mean? It doesn't tell you what the condition is for it. Where does it say that it upgrades his grenades into a firebomb? How is someone supposed to read this and understand, yes, this character's grenade is upgraded into a firebomb instead of the normal explosive? Nowhere does it indicate what the condition is to activate this ability. Looking again at all three Highguard characters, the names don't tell you what they do. What does it mean that a character is named Atticus or Una or Slade? The names don't invoke or indicate what you would expect the character to do. Imagine Apex designs with the real in-game character names. All of a sudden, the character and the designs then get disconnected. It doesn't make sense for this character to be named something not related to his clones, this character not related to something for his gas, and this character not related to something specifically related to tracking. The names might be as stupid as, this character summons lightning, so we called him Stormbringer. It kind of sounds stupid, and it's like, oh wow, you named the storm guy Stormbringer. But you as a player instantly know Stormbringer, okay, this guy does some lightning related stuff. Moving on to the weapons are straight up ripoffs of the Apex Legend weapons. You've got the R301, the Hemlock, the Peacekeeper, and albeit this one feels like a little bit of a stretch, but you also have the Wingman. We are in a fantasy setting, but for some reason, this game just uses normal ass guns. That one is literally just an AK-47. Why do these feel like they could be ripped out of a different game and then were put into this one? None of these guns feel new. It all feels like you've seen it before in other games, which in a lot of the guns cases in this one, if you've played Apex, you literally have before. It also doesn't help that the hit registration currently, or at least on launch day, was pretty bad. Sometimes I would have anywhere from a quarter second to 1 second delay on bullet registration. And I know it's not my internet because other games do not have this kind of issue consistently. A big appeal of playing a hero shooter like this is that the characters all play differently because of the abilities they have. However, in this game, for some reason, the cooldowns are long as hell. Why is it 40 plus seconds for a basic ability? Each fills their own separate role, but it doesn't feel like I get to do that separate role maybe once a minute at most. The other thing in this is that ults for some reason take forever to charge. This game even includes ultimate accelerants directly ripped straight from Apex. I have gone multiple matches with no ults from anyone on either team. The only match I got multiple ults in was with Una, and that's because Una's passive summons little spirit dudes that give you free gubbins. The free gubbins I got all game was free ultimate accelerators. Why have the characters have abilities that you would expect them to want to be able to use, but you use it once and then you can go take a nap and wake up and it's still on cooldown? Now, moving on to the mounts, movements, and the map size in general. I have some very decisive thoughts on the mounts in the game currently. The mounts move fairly quickly, and in turn, moving on foot feels extremely slow in comparison. Now, this begs the question, were the maps built this big and mounts added to help traverse? Or were mounts added and then the maps were made big because of the mount speed? Currently, the maps feel gigantic. 6 players clearly do not fill out the entire map area, and you're very likely to not even see the enemy until you fight at the sword spawn. Why are the maps so big and so empty outside of the fact that the mounts move quick, so you gotta have empty space because otherwise you traverse the map in a quarter second? Each map currently is 2 bases, 3 sword spawns, and vast nothingness in between. You could straight up remove the mounts and shrink the map size. It would effectively take the same time to traverse around, but you don't need such large open areas of nothingness. Areas with no mounts honestly feel better as they're designed to actually have gameplay in them, and they're not just for blitzing across them on your horse. Once again, comparing to their previous game they worked on, Apex characters have multiple movement options in their kits. You have the general Legends movement abilities that they might have unique to them. You have zip lines on the map. You've got jump towers. You've got map-specific vehicles. Maybe they're even like launch cannons. You also have wall climbing, which is right now in both games. However, buildings in Apex are designed at heights where you can actually climb them. For some reason, most of the walls that I tried to climb in Highguard are just slightly taller than your climb height. Maybe it was bugged when I tried it each time, but I was not able to go from, let's say, the ground floor and go onto the second floor. It just was too tall for all the characters I tried to do it on. Now, moving on to the actual gameplay, the issues start and they don't honestly end the entire time. Starting in the defensive phase, it takes way too long. It just straight up does. You do not need to take 1 minute to place down 5 reinforcements. The reinforcements can be placed down instantaneously, and you have 5 of them. You can't even cover the whole base. There are too many walls that you can't reinforce. The reinforced walls supposedly are supposed to help stop the enemy, but rockets, hammers, thumpers, even some characters' abilities all go through reinforced walls and break them down with no struggle from them. Whenever we played and were raiding, we never struggled, and I personally never felt like it was actually hard to break through the enemy's reinforced walls in any of the game sessions. It doesn't help as well that normal walls, which you would expect to at least present like a minor problem, break with just your normal melee. They don't stand any semblance of a chance to actually hold back the attackers. For the looting phase, the gear only spawns at +1 gear level. What I mean by this is you start the game with gray gear, and then you're let out. All the chests and the vendor can only have blue gear, so there's no reason to realistically keep opening chests. You have gray assault rifle. In the chest is blue version of the assault rifle. Are you really deciding anything to pick up the objectively better version of the assault rifle? There's no thought process. Just open the chest. If it's blue and you're using it, pick it up. Which then leads into the other thing of farming crystals is really boring. It is really slow, and it slows down an already slow step in the game itself. You can straight up just avoid chests and instead farm crystals because the vendor specifically sells a bunch of stuff that you can find in the chest, and it's the same level of loot as you would find in the chest anyways. This whole looting up phase doesn't feel worthwhile and honestly feels more so like a mindlessly waste time for a minute or two while the sword spawns, because you're not going to go find the enemy. There's no reason to fight them. You can't find super rare gear, and once you hit blue gear, you're done and you're just waiting around. Now, moving on to the sword spawn, this is where the game actually starts to get somewhat fun. You get one fight at the sword spawn location. The winning sword team mounts and then runs directly at the enemy base. Maybe if you're lucky, you get one fight outside of the base, and then, maybe you stop them, and then you sprint on your mounts across to the other side of the map. Because the maps are large and open with areas designed for mount-sized units and movement, it's not designed with player model characters in size. You have huge areas of just vast nothingness with maybe a rock or two in the way, and that's your cover. As a player, it's not engaging to have an open field and nothing in between and then 2 rocks on either side. Now you finally get to what I consider to be actually the most fun part of the game, and it's pretty much over what feels like instantly. The raid phase has an entire setup which feels like once again it takes a little too long for the shield to come down, as the defenders just kind of sit and lollygag and wait for nothing to happen because they've already reinforced at the start of the game. And then the shields open up, and it's just too easy to break through walls as an attacker. None of the reinforcements the defenders did actually ended up mattering. I've never seen more than one raid on a team's base in a round. It's they raid, you defend, maybe you raid their base, and then the game's over. Because it does 30 damage initially, you go down to 70 health. If you defend well, you do 30 to them, so the other base is at 70. Then you enter the base and you just blow up the center thing and it's over. The game feels like it's done in all of 3 minutes, but because of all the waiting, it takes forever to actually get to the raid phase and, play the game. Now, how would I personally fix the game? Step 1, give characters in-game names. Good names help build a connection to the name and the gameplay, as well as it gives out easier callouts. Like my previous point, what does it mean that the character is named Atticus? If he was named Stormbringer, it might be kind of stupid sounding, but Stormbringer instantly indicates that this guy does something with lightning or thunder. Any names related to what the characters do would be better than what they currently have. Speaking of characters, more characters in general. This game desperately needs more unique variety. Other games currently exist in this space and have drastically more options. Rivals launched roughly a year ago and had 33 characters at launch. It's been adding one character every month. Modern day gaming cannot launch with super limited, super small casts and go, oh, we're going to add in over time. You already have other games that have more options and a dedicated player base. Why would they swap over from their breadth of options to this game, which has very little, if none at all, for the style of gameplay they would want to play? Another thing I would do is just remove looting. Loot's already just gun tier upgrades. It's not exciting to run up the chests, smash E, pick up the 3 different consumables, keep picking up armor, and you pick up 1 gun upgrade and you're done for the entire duration of the phase. Change the loot areas to just enemy NPC camps that you fight. Do the Apex thing. Turns out, farming armor in Apex and finding higher tiers of armor sucks, and the developers realized that pretty quickly because they implemented Evo shields. Give the player something to actually do while the sword is spawning outside of just loot box chest simulator. They're not even fun to open. You get the same thing from the same chests constantly. Add new defensive items for the bases. You could make the crystals, buy these from the shops, and just straight up remove mining. It's super slow and it's just not fun. Speed the game up. Make the camps drop crystals as well. Maybe you could place them down when you're being raided, because currently when you're being raided on the defensive side, you've got nothing to do while the shield breaker breaks into your base. You could have turrets, traps, maybe even stronger reinforced walls perhaps. Just give the players anything to do while they wait for the raid to actually start. This game has so much downtime when playing it. I am usually not very good at remembering time. However, if you're not doing something, it will feel so much longer than it actually is. In my head, it feels like it's 1 minute for the defensive initial phase of building, 2 minutes for looting, 1 minute of actually fighting, and then 1 minute of raiding, and then you go back to a 2 to 3 minute wait to actually do another thing. That's probably not what the actual timers are for this game, but that's what it feels like because of so much downtime of just sitting around doing nothing other than pressing E and melee on crystals and chests. It's not engaging gameplay, and it takes too long to get to what is actually fun, and that's playing with your team versus the enemy. Finally, wrapping all things up, this doesn't even include the sweeping issues of stability and visual clarity with this game. Here is a clip of Daniel Owens running the game at 10% internal resolution and very low post-processing. For some reason, the post-processing does 80, 90, or 100% of your final resolution, and then DLSS will let you scale the initial resolution that it's upscaling from. I have never seen a game be able to be played at 864p upscaled from I think 86p. Why is this even an option, and why is it not destroying the frame rates? Something with this game does not run well at all on anybody's machines. It's so blurry, and it still doesn't run well. Personally, I do not think the developers will be able to respond fast enough to the issues with the game for the majority of the player base. They have listed that they do have a 1-year plan. I am honestly skeptical that they will be realistically able to actually carry out that plan during the entire year. I think they need to do what Marvel Rivals did and speed up the cadence of releases. If that content is done already, which in the case of Marvel Rivals it was, so they sped up, they need to start cranking out things much quicker. They need to start making changes to keep people engaged with the game, otherwise this game will continue to bleed its already very small player base. As of recording of this video, they already lost half of their player base again from the second day going on to the third day. We're not at the weekend yet, but be honest, you do expect the weekend player base to look at this game, come over and play it instead of playing the other games they already own or spent money in, and with characters that they care about, the gameplay that they like, instead of this game, which does a bunch of everything, but none of it particularly well. Personally, I think the concept of this game sounds kind of good. Rainbow Six Siege essentially has the base rating aspect, and I love Rainbow Six Siege. Apex has fantastic movement and gunplay, so combining Apex gunplay with Siege Light gameplay is honestly a very intriguing concept. However, right now, it's done in such a way that feels so disjointed that it just doesn't have any staying power and is incredibly boring even after only 3 or 4 rounds of gameplay. I hope the devs can take feedback constructively and very quickly pivot this game into a way that will have more people be engaged with it and have another competitor on the market to force everyone to do better. Because having more games to play and more competitors makes all of the games collectively become better in the long term.